Welcome, my pretties. Come in, have a seat, as we sip the tea on true crime. I'm Haley,
And I'm Autumn.
and this is Don't You Know?
Ooh, see, you got it. You got it. See how we switched it up today? It's because I did the research.
She's presenting.
I think I presented one time, but I didn't do the research on that. Newsflash, I'm in school, and that's a lot. So over winter break, I did the most easy case possible. You want to know why it was easy, Haley?
Why?
Because she got out of prison. Yeah, we're talking about Gypsy Rose today. Obviously. She just got out of prison at the end of December, and she is hot talk on the fucking Instagram.
Oh, yeah?
She got... Yeah, how about we do a live reaction to just some of the stuff she's posted?
Okay. Yeah, because I have not seen any.
This is of 1/5/24, when we're doing a live reaction of Miss
Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard. First of all, you know what her husband looks like.
Yeah.
That it comes with some conspiracy theories. Yeah.
I love conspiracy theories. Enlighten me.
There's one you sent me that he looks just like her mom.
I'm not saying that he does, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm
just saying.
They got a good nose.
Yeah.
Here's something she's posted.
Hey everyone, this is Gypsy. I'm finally free. I put out an ebook that I'm super proud of. It's not a rehashing of everything that happened.
Yeah, she basically just promotes herself. So that's like the first. Let's see what day that was.
An experience.
That was 5 days ago. So the first. So she was out for like 3 days. And she's just rolling up with all this new stuff on. So congrats to her. She obviously found herself in a nice area of her life, which is amazing for her. There's some other theories that have come out. Can't think of one off the top of my head. I know that the other participant in the murders, spoiler if you haven't heard, you live under a rock. I'm just saying that's a personal attack. Nah, it's cool. The internet sucks, so I understand why you wouldn't be on it, but if you're not on the internet, you're probably not listening to us. Nick Globajan.
Sounds good to me.
Globajan. He recently did an interview. I haven't seen very many interviews from him. But he did one. I haven't watched it. Obviously, there's so much coming out now. She's obviously just promoted all her stuff. There's shows, documentaries, research all over the place. Yeah. And so I try to get as much information as possible. I got a lot of research. Hopefully it's enough. But also, if I get something wrong, just let me know. Not every resource is a credible one. And I try to fact check them, but
it's a busy life, man.
Be happy I got it done. Okay? So are you ready to start this?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's start the story with the victim, if you could say that, Dee Dee Blanchard. Now, this would have been Gypsy Rose's mother. Dee Dee was born on May 3rd in 1967 in Louisiana. Growing up, Dee Dee was known for making scenes when she didn't get her way.
Oh, a young Karen, huh?
Yes, a bit of a stealer. She would write check frauds or write fraudulent checks, may I say, actually. When she was 24 years old, she fell pregnant with her baby daddy, Rod Blanchard. Rod, not Rob, as my autocorrect so really wanted to do a million times. Rod was only 17 at the time, so take that as you want. She was 24.
Oh, that's a bit of an age difference.
It is.
That's two very separate parts of your life, 17 and 24.
Yeah, definitely not where I was at when I was 17. Yeah, so that was a bit of an age gap. Like I said, take it as you will. I will not take it, but whatever. How long they were dating before they got pregnant either, I don't know that. I just know that he was 17, she was 24. They obviously did the deed to have a kid. And that baby was Gypsy. That's how babies are made. Gypsy Rose was born sometime in 1991 Gypsy got her name from her mother, who liked the name Gypsy, and Rose came from Rod because he liked Guns N' Roses.
Ethnic slurs and rock and roll.
Yeah. Obviously, Rod and Dee Dee weren't the love match they thought they were, and they broke up before she was born. So, Gypsy's childhood started out with a bang. That was terrible. Her mother was shocked. I think she was stabbed. That was funny. When Gypsy was born, it took only 3 months for Dee Dee to bring her in for the first of many, many, many doctor's appointments. Oops. It was there where Dee Dee claimed Gypsy Rose, at just 3 months old, had sleep apnea. So that's pretty noticeable for a kid, I guess. I might have thought it was asthma first, but we'll get into it. Dee Dee would continue to take Gypsy to multiple doctors' offices, claiming that Gypsy Rose had every kind of ailment, which would lead her later to Dee Dee's death. Dee Dee was diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy syndrome.
Was that while she was alive, or was that like a posthumous diagnosis?
I believe it was
Posthumous.
Yeah. But I think some doctors really leaning up to it. Which, according to Healthline, as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, MSP, is a disorder in which the caretaker of a child either makes up fake symptoms or causes real symptoms to make it appear as the child is injured or ill. And I quote,
usually for the attention, not necessarily a malicious intent. They
Yes.
know that they're harming the child, but they're not enjoying their suffering. They're enjoying the attention that they get from...
Which it is very known, and I think I get into it a little later. Dee Dee loved it. She wanted all the attention, all the time.
I mean...
Like, she wanted it. From just a young age, which is a little scary. So because Dee Dee had MSP, by the time Gypsy was 8, she was riding on the back of her grandfather's motorcycle when they got into a minor accident. Everybody was fine in the situation. The only person to walk away with an injury was Gypsy. It was a very minor knee scratch. So, no stitches were needed, honestly. Could have just
put a
used
Band-Aid on
it. But something started deeper in Dee Dee that would ultimately be stopped by her very own flesh and blood. Now, many know this case. It's a very public, extreme case of Munchausen by proxy. And the murder can be told in different ways. I know Netflix has a dramatization version called Mommy Dearest, or Mommy Dead and Dearest, maybe, which came out a couple years ago. Good watch. But some details were dramatized due to television purposes. Due to Gypsy Rose's knee. So at the start of Gypsy Rose's injury with her scraped knee, that is when Dee Dee said she couldn't walk anymore, and she had to use a wheelchair.
How old was...
She was 8. And it was because she got in an accident with her grandfather.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is just a scrape. Throughout Dee Dee and Gypsy's time together, they did many special for someone who was suffering like Dee Dee said Gypsy was. Gypsy got to do a whole bunch of fun things. Gypsy in 2001 went to the Special Olympics. She, at that time, would have been about 10 years old. Dee Dee would have convinced her she was 8, because that's one thing Dee Dee did, was convince her that she was younger than what she was. After the first grade is when Gypsy stopped going to public school. She learned by reading Harry Potter and, reading Harry Potter books. Harry Potter books.
Did Dee Dee put any real effort into homeschooling her?
No.
No.
I get into it, I think, right now. It sounds like Dee Dee obviously pulled her out of school so she could be monitored 24/7. But Dee Dee would claim she was too sick to go.
Just wanted that complete control.
I think I get into it a little bit later, but Gypsy didn't learn anything. Like, it was just doctor's appointments. She had a first grade education.
Mm.
Which, she got her GED in prison, so.
Okay, good.
She did stuff with her time. Yeah, she just had an interview with a news company, and she was talking about it. I'll try to find it and link it in our description. During this time in Gypsy's life, when she was about 8 to 10 years old, her father, Rod, would remarry. Dee Dee had, at this time, moved into her father's house and her stepmother, where it was speculated Dee Dee attempted to poison her father's wife with Roundup.
For real?
Yeah.
Like, what was the method? She put it in her drink?
Fucked up. Let's see. This would send her to get married, or to not get married intentionally. I don't know. I think it was put in a drink I read. Like, she was like, just spiking the lemonade or something.
Some lemonade and
I think I read
choke
that.
on it.
Yeah, or it was just her food or something like that.
Roundup, man.
But she ingested it. So during this time that her stepmom was in the hospital for getting treated, this is when Dee Dee would write even more bad checks. Because why not just add on top of it, right? In her father's name, in an attempt to cash them. Again, with the wife being sick, the attention was off of Dee Dee, and she just couldn't let it go. Dee Dee was confronted with the accusations, with the attempts to kill her stepmom. This caused Dee Dee and Gypsy to pack up and move to New Orleans. After Dee Dee left, her stepmother's health miraculously returned to normal. So, crazy how that happens. When you just don't ingest Roundup. A fun little snack. There is where Gypsy and Dee Dee lived off the government and Rod's child support. Which, may I add, we know how men's child support goes, because our father had to pay child support for a very long time. In the early 2000s, 2010s, he was paying for just Gypsy $1,200.
Jesus, a month?
A month. To me, it seems a bit crazy and a bit extreme.
That was pretty good, especially back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So this is how Dee Dee didn't have to work. She was, defrauding the government.
Yep.
Because she was getting disability for Gypsy Rose, right?
Yep.
And how she evaded suspicion because they moved around a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she wrote bad checks, which she was living off of. Okay. Then, sad event of Hurricane Katrina hit. And this hurricane is when they lived in an apartment. They lived in an apartment in New Orleans at this time that was getting paid for. But it all flooded during Hurricane Katrina, and that included all the medical records and birth certificates, and all the important information from their lives just washed away.
So she could just start over.
Yep. So obviously RIP to everybody whose lives were affected or lost someone in that terrible event, but that just...
Never let a good tragedy go to waste.
That was just some nipple twisties for Dee Dee over here.
Nipple twisties?
She got excited! So after this, she decided to relocate to Missouri. In Missouri is where everything regarding Dee Dee and Gypsy's whole thing, the whole murder, that all happened in Missouri.
So this was their last stop on
Louisiana, New Orleans, Missouri. And this is where they let the Habitat of Humanity to build them a small little nice house that had a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been so nice.
Was it televised too?
I don't know that. But I think there's definitely pictures. Luckily, even though they took up space in a house that could have been used for somebody else, this was a much larger project on the north side of Springfield for Habitat of Humanity. So hopefully they gave some other community things that needed to be given instead of wasting a house on them. But they didn't know better at that time, right?
No, they were.
Listening to
They're
Dee Dee.
cleared. Like,
Yeah.
that was all good intentions.
Yeah, they did. I'm not digging
Dee
them
Dee
at
was a
all.
master manipulator.
Yeah, again, nipples twisted. So they often moved into the big, new, fancy, shiny house that could have been used for somebody else who needed it, but whatever. In Missouri is where Dee Dee would take Gypsy to Mercy Hospital and other doctors' offices and get Gypsy's medical needs, quote unquote, taken care of. With how many illnesses Gypsy was said to have, they sure did get lots of free things. Not only hours, they got flights to hospitals, they got treatments, they stayed at Ronald McDonald's houses, they went to Disneyland, they got passes to Miranda Lambert backstage.
Wow.
During all this time, Rod was still paying child support and trying to see Dee Dee, or to Gypsy, not Dee Dee. I don't think he ever wanted to see Dee Dee. But Dee Dee would cancel or change times, making it near impossible for Rod to ever see his daughter. Because how, you take the PTO, get the trips planned, and she would cancel on him.
Jesus.
So, like, not like he had a winning shot there. Ripsies. Rinky Raggy! That's how I feel right now. Gypsy Rose since has reconciled with him, her father.
That's good.
Yes. They would visit all the time while she was in prison. She posted a picture with her,
his wife would be her stepmom,
yeah.
As long as they're accepting of each other and all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. She posts her all over.
Was he at all suspicious when she was growing up? Like, I know he didn't get to see her, but he obviously knew that she was sick, right?
So, like, basically what I was reading is that he wasn't allowed to ever see her, so he just took Dee Dee's word for it. He thought he had a daughter who was sick, and he was trying to see her, and he couldn't.
Mm.
And I think that's why he had to pay so much in child support. It's because she was so sick.
To cover medical bills. Were they on public assistance?
I think they were, because they were living off the government, so I think they
Medicare?
were.
Medicaid?
Well, all I saw is that they would get these free hospital treatments and flights. So I'm sure I get into it a little bit later of everything that I could find that Dee Dee said Gypsy had. I give like a whole list in a while. So we'll get into that. She is 5 foot tall, so very short. Or at least short to me, because I am 5'7", so that's 7 inches shorter than me. She has no teeth. Wore very round, thick glasses at the time. Don't think she wears glasses anymore.
No, she had glasses on in that TikTok.
Did she? Oh, okay.
I don't know, maybe she didn't. No, she didn't.
And a very high childlike voice.
Yeah.
She still does have a very high voice, but she's not a child. Gypsy would recount that when her mother, Dee Dee, would do interviews, she, being Dee Dee, would grab Gypsy's hand and squeeze when they were talking, when Dee Dee didn't like what Gypsy was saying. Again, controlling her into the situation as the lies go on. Gypsy Rose had a long list of things her mother said that was ailing her. She had sleep apnea and needed to use a wheelchair. She had oxygen tanks. She had feeding tubes. She had no hair to make it look like she was a chemo patient. Leukemia, asthma, vision, hearing impairment, muscle dysmorphia, and seizures. Tubes in her ears.
She had her teeth removed because she said she had...
She had her saliva glands removed.
Saliva glands, which led to the tooth decay?
I think so. So with the long list, I'm sure there was more, but again, that's just what I found. And I'm sure, hopefully nothing was worse, but I'm sure there was stuff that was worse that Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy had. Treating these medical conditions that you don't have can be extremely serious. It's not like you're taking drugs lightly, especially leukemia and like all that stuff. She's all getting treated for that. not only did she have those ailments,
That
Dee Dee also got Gypsy Rose's saliva glands removed and treated with Botox to control her drooling, which Gypsy later claimed her mother would induce the drooling by a topical
Topical analgesic?
anesthetic is what it says, to numb the gums before doctor visits. So she would be drooling and she couldn't control it.
Couldn't swallow.
Yeah.
Just the normal saliva that you're supposed to.
During one of these appointments with Gypsy, they met a doctor by the name of Bernardo Flasterstein, a pediatric neurodoctor. I'm going to say Dr. Bernardo, even though I wrote Flasterstein because
That's a mouthful.
I don't have it in me right now. Dr. Bernardo didn't believe that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy, so he ordered an MRI and blood work on Gypsy, which all came back normal. Maybe it's because Gypsy wasn't sick. But the doctors weren't doctoring right.
No, they were just taking Dee Dee's word for it, as if she had any
Yeah.
authority or knowledge over
anything. Anyways, Dr. Bernardo was communicating with Dee Dee, and it was said that he didn't understand why Gypsy was using a wheelchair, that her labs were normal, that she should be able to walk. Due to these comments, Dee Dee would never take Gypsy back to Dr. Bernardo. It should be noticed that he suggested that Dee Dee had Bunchausen.
Okay, so he was on to her. He was like, this is fucked up.
That's why I'm like, yes, but also maybe no.
Not officially diagnosed. Like, she didn't have a doctor that was like, you're fucked in the head.
Yeah.
You need help.
But like, a doctor was like,
she should be walking and you've got her in a wheelchair with no teeth and fucking
even
head.
though, doctors are mandated reporters, Dr. Bernardo did not make the report to social services. He did not do this because he said that all the other doctors treated them with what he called a pair of golden gloves, and doubted the authorities would believe him anyway. In 2009, an anonymous caller told the police about Dee Dee using different names and birthdays for herself and her daughter, and suggested that Gypsy was in better health than she claimed. Officers who performed the resulting wellness check accepted Dee Dee's explanation that she used the misinformation to make it harder for her abusive ex-husband to find her. And Gypsy, without talking to Rod. That misinformation that would make her abusive ex-husband. Without talking to Rod, and reported that Gypsy seemed to be too genuinely... What the fuck am I trying to say?
That Gypsy seemed to genuinely be mentally disabled, and the file was closed.
That's what I'm trying to say. So, there is the background on Gypsy and Dee Dee. Yay!
That's a roller coaster of a fucking childhood.
She wasn't the best of ladies, right? So, obviously during these murders, Gypsy had an accomplice, boyfriend person, and that person was Nick Globojan that we mentioned earlier. He was born in 1990 in Wisconsin. Gypsy Rose and Nick had an online relationship. During the messages back and forth, Gypsy explained the torture her mother had put her through. Nick had autism and had a lower IQ. He met Gypsy in 2012. Didn't do much research on him. I didn't do as much research on him because the information is so well known and there's lots of conflicting information. So, if you want to know more about him,
do your independent research.
I know he's come out with an interview, and to me, he acknowledges what he did. He knows what he did was bad. He knows she manipulated him. But he just still... I don't know. There's something missing there, and that might just be my own opinion. So you just have to do your own independent research. So now, the murder. In June of 2015, Claudine, which was Dee Dee's Blanchard's real name, was murdered in her bedroom house in Springfield, Missouri. Her body was lying on the bed, covered in blood of stabbed wounds. After they returned home, Dee Dee had gone to sleep. He, being Nick, went into the Blanchard house. Gypsy let him in and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he was to use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy Rose was not... Okay, I heard that she was in her bedroom covering her ears. I see that I wrote down that she wasn't in the house. I heard that she was in the bathroom. So where her placement was, I got a lot of different mixed reports.
Point being, she did not watch the murder.
Yeah, she wasn't in the room actively participating, actively stabbing.
No, she was just, much like her mother, puppeteering another
Yeah.
person to do her bidding.
Yeah.
Monkey see, monkey do, right?
Correctamundo. Okay, there we go. See, okay, this is where I get back to the hiding in the bathroom, hiding in her bedroom, or not being in the house. So now I have that she was in the bathroom. So now we're getting into the mindset she's in the bathroom. She has her ears covered so she wouldn't hear her mom screaming. Nick then stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in her back while she was sleeping. Afterwards, the two of them had sex. Yeah. Nothing
It was in Dee Dee's bed, right?
I don't believe so. I think it was in
Gypsy's
bed.
Okay.
But it could be, and I might have just missed that information. But I don't think it was. So after that, they took $4,000 in cash, and they fled. They bounced. Where they would stay the next few days planning their time around. They were seen on security cameras. Gypsy was said... Gypsy said that she had believed that the two had gotten away with the crime. They mailed the murder weapon back to Nick's house in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it on the bus. Several witnesses saw them with the pair of them going to the Greyhound station. That Greyhound station noted that Gypsy wore a blonde wig and walked unassisted. After seeing the concerning Facebook post, now...
I wanted her to be found. I wanted the cops to find her body. She said... Oh, that was Gypsy Rose. Hold on. Where is it? The bitch is dead.
Yes. Yes. So, that is what he said. Haley found out. Research on the pod. The bitch is dead.
Posted that on Facebook.
Yes. The Claudine and Dee Dee... Oh my gosh. Claudine and Gypsy's friends suspected something was amiss. When the phone calls went unanswered, several friends and neighbors went to the house. While a friend and neighbors knew that the two often left on medical trips unannounced, they saw Dee Dee's modified car in the driveway. Woodsman's, that is the name of one of their neighbors, gathered out on the Blanchard's yard, told police that she knew about Gypsy and her secret boyfriend. She showed them the printouts that she had saved, which included his name. Based on the information, police asked Facebook to trace the IP address from which the post to Dee Dee's account had been made. It turns out to be in Wisconsin, because they're smart. The next day, police agencies in Waukesha County raided the Globachar's home. Globachar and Gypsy were surrounded. They were taken into custody and charged with murder and a felony armed criminal action. After the disclosure of how Dee Dee had treated Gypsy, sympathy for her as the victim of a violent murder rapidly shifted to her daughter as a long-term victim of child abuse. While the charge of first-degree murder can carry death penalty under Missouri's law or life without parole, County prosecutors Dan Patterson announced he would not seek it for either Gypsy or Globajon, calling the case extraordinary and unusual. After the attorney obtained her medical records from Louisiana, he secured a plea bargain to second-degree murder for Gypsy. Gypsy was so undernourished up to this point. During the time she was in county jail, her lawyer told BuzzFeed that she had gained 14 pounds. In contrast to most of his clients who typically lose weight in the situation, in July of 2016, she accepted a plea bargain and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And she was recently released at the end of December 2023 after serving 7 years and got off on good behavior. So she served her time, girls. She served her time. Globajon still faced more severe charges. Prosecutors contended that he initiated the murder plot, and he and Gypsy agreed that he was going to be the one to kill Dee Dee. He was also more severely prosecuted due to personal circumstances. Globajon was granted less sympathy and understanding due to the lack of involvement in the abuse. Gypsy's plea bargain agreement did not require her to testify against him. In January of 2017, his trial was postponed when prosecutors requested a second psychiatric exam.
82.
An IQ of 82. I don't know why the fuck I wrote it like that. Who the fuck do I think I am? An IQ of 82. Fucking writing something for school now? An intelligence.
It's for the word count, yo.
It's 2,832, but I'm not following it word for word. Just kind of like going off of a couple notes smushed together.
Okay, so he had an IQ of 82 and was on the autism spectrum.
Yeah. Which suggested that he was had diminished capabilities. He initially waived his right to a trial by jury, but changed his mind in June of that year. December of 2017, the judge set Globajon's trial for November 2018. In the opening statement, prosecutors alleged that John deliberated. In their opening statements, prosecutors alleged that Globajon had deliberated for over a year before the crime. His lawyers pointed to his autism and said that Gypsy had formulated the crimes and their love-struck client had done what he was asked to do. The next day, prosecutors showed jurors text messages, sometimes sexually explicit, that Gypsy and Globajon shared in the weeks before their murders. They used various personas, a little foreplay. They were both of age, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So why not? This, to me, pointed out in the trial, I think they pointed it out for...
to show that she was manipulating him.
Yeah, but also they were in a relationship.
And that they were both rather depraved. It wasn't just
Yeah.
Nick's side.
Yeah.
Even though he's out here saying that he's like a vampire.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
They were very intense. He was
Like, this is just what the courts were saying, so that's why it's a whole bunch of big words.
But yeah.
But you get into their actual stuff, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yes. He was very protective of Gypsy as well.
So during these text messages Gypsy and Nick shared in the weeks before the murders, they often used various personas, as well as knives he had used to commit the murders. In some of these texts, he asked her for details about Dee Dee's room and her sleeping habits. There were supplemented by video of his interview with police after his arrest, where he admitted killing her as in Dee Dee. Gypsy testified on the third day of trial, which I thought with her plea bargain she didn't have to testify against him, but she still had to testify, huh?
Yeah, she still has to. She's on trial for the murder.
Oh, it's like a shared trial?
Or no, she's not on trial.
No, she took a
plead
plea
out.
bargain.
Yeah.
Oh, in the hopes that Dee Dee would accept him. So Gypsy was like, I'll get pregnant, or
That
we
way
can kill
my
her.
mom will like you, or we can kill her.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I'll get pregnant, or we can kill her.
And then two like really
intense
extreme.
things. But like whatever.
I mean, she was emotionally, mentally stunted, uneducated. Like,
yeah,
still.
But so was he.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they were
the
two
blind leading the blind. Really.
Yeah, they're two very undeveloped people. Globojan never told her what he thought about her pregnancy plans. After 4 days, the case was sent to the juries, and the juries found Globojan guilty of first-degree murder after approximately 2 hours of deliberation. They returned the verdict of guilty, blah, blah, blah. In February of 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder conviction. So Gypsy was sentenced to 10, and he was sentenced to life. That conviction comes with heavy debates. Some
I can
people
see the
saying
controversy to it. It's
that
like
he needed like more mental help than prison sentence. Some being that Gypsy got off too light because she did in fact
the point
contribute.
being that even though he was autistic, he still knew right from wrong, and that murder was wrong.
Yeah, sure. Nick asked Judge David Jones for his leniency on the armed criminal action charge, which carries a minimum sentence of only 3 years. Okay. That to me didn't make much sense.
Like, well, I'm in life in prison, but I don't want to serve 3 years after.
After I'm done with my life sentence, anyway.
Yeah, because life doesn't mean for the length of his life. It's, what, 60 years?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's something to it.
I always thought that it was like life, 25 to life, or something like that, but that's not how it is.
A lot of different.
He said that he had fallen blindly in love with Gypsy. He received a sentence of 25 years on that charge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a minimum of 3 years. Sorry if I said that. That was the maximum. It was a minimum of 3 years. Which is set to occur concurrently to his life in his sentence. A spokesman for Habitat of Humanity who volunteered to build the Blanchard's house along with other houses on their street, said, "We're really deeply saddened by the whole situation." And that was on September 29th, 2023. The Missouri Department of Corrections confirmed that Gypsy has been granted parole, and she was released on December 29th, 2023, after serving 85% of her sentence per state law. Gypsy Rose was granted and released when Gypsy Rose was granted a release. Now she's back in Louisiana with her husband, where she thrives, and we hope to see her enjoy her life outside of the justice system. And that was my research on Miss Gypsy Rose, as I stumbled through the last 30 minutes of it.
No, it was great. It's such a fucked up case, because
and there's even more details.
Wrong, but oh yeah,
I got into some details specifically on how life started.
Yeah.
But you could go so much more into that trial. I gave it a glazed donut layer of the trials. Like, you could go into text.
This is the icing, not the...
You could go into how mentally broke down both of the parties were
Yeah.
And throw
Well,
Dee Dee
all
in,
of the
like,
parties.
yeah, throw Dee Dee in there too. Like, you could break it up so much more. So now that we finished the story about Gypsy Rose and all of that, we started this thing last week, or the last time we recorded at least, because this should be one of the second times coming back from our winter break. Um, go listen to the other episodes of Don't You Know Pod. Anywhere where you can stream. We started this thing called the Sip of Stupidity, where I find stupid fun facts and read them because we need a palate cleanser from true crime. Sometimes. So, today we're doing 56 interesting fun serial fact killers. Whoa, that's not what it says. 56 interesting serial killer facts. We're not going to do all 56 because that's all too much, but this is from factretriever.com. So there's your source on that. Number 1, a serial killer is someone who has murdered 3 or more people over a period of more than 3 months, with the cooling off period between murders. The motivation is usually based on a psychological, often sexual, gratification, though the motivations may induce anger, thrill, money, and attention seeking. 70% of serial killers experience problems to related substance abuse. Oh, that was number 2. And according to the FBI. Number 3, many serial killers experience sexual stressful events in childhood. Number 4, Dr. Harold Shipman, 1946 to 2004, is regarded as the most prolific serial killer in modern history, with over 250 murders. He was a British doctor who murdered his patients, the oldest patient being 96, and the youngest patient was 41. He hung himself in his cell in 2004, the day before his 58th birthday. And let's do one more. Let me just jump around. Oh, number 19 says most psychiatrists note that number 19, most psychiatrists note that psychopaths cannot be successfully treated. I don't know if that is a true fact, but that is what factretriever.com says.
How do you install empathy?
Control-Alt-Delete.
My amygdala is swollen. Please treat.
This has been another episode of Don't You Know. My name's Autumn, and don't you forget to not do the outro so fast, because you still have to be told to go give us an email at don'tyouknowpod, follow us on don'tyouknowpod on Instagram.com, go to our website at don'tyouknow, pod.com.
And that email address is Outlook.
Ooh, what did I say? .com?
You just said, don't you know, pod.
Oh, don't you know pod at outlook.com. Give us an email. We still haven't received any. You should email us because we're lonely.
Catch us up on Instagram and Mastodon.
Yes, Mastodon. We have a Mastodon account. We probably won't get a Twitter account because we don't Twitter. And Facebook is iffy because you need monitors. And we are not that big yet. So, maybe those some other time, but not now. This has been another episode of Don't You Know. My name is Autumn.
And I'm Haley.
And don't forget to lock your doors.
Choo, choo, choo.